Humanity has come a long way. We have developed cars that can stop and park autonomously. There are computers that simulate complex weather systems. And since 1998, we have been operating the International Space Station, which tirelessly collects data on the origins of life on Earth. But what about clean drinking water, reliable collection and treatment of solid and liquid waste? Easy, you might think. Unfortunately, it is not quite as simple as it seems, as evidenced by the lack of these systems in places around the globe. This is not because of a lack of technical solutions or insufficient money. In many cases, it is human decision-making that is to blame. The consequence is, every fourth human being, over 1.8 billion people worldwide, drink water that is fecally contaminated. 1 in 3 human beings does not have access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene. In places around the world, up to 90% of all wastewater enters surface and groundwater untreated. This creates a perfect breeding ground for pathogens to multiply and spread. But why is it so hard to deal with this problem? Well, to answer this, we'll have to go back to our childhood. Take Nima from East Africa, for example. Like all infants until the age of around 2, Nima believed that pretty much everything is edible and found nothing repulsive. So before she even knew what feces are and how these could affect her, her mother told her that they were disgusting and bad. From a disease prevention point of view, this attitude is perfectly reasonable. But Nima was an infant unable to fully grasp the concept. She copied, replicated, and adapted behavior and values she saw in her parents, without questioning them. She knew the shoulds and must-nots regarding feces, and they have become firmly rooted in her subconscious. This form of learning by adopting the attitudes of others is called introjection, and the external concept locked into our psyche is called an introject. Fast forward to the adult Nima. She now works for the local district government and is responsible for wastewater and hygiene issues. Here too, she is confronted with introjection. On her first day, her colleagues told her how things are done here. In a nutshell, the government employees put a lot of effort into the supply of drinking water, but hardly anyone bothers about wastewater. Even if it is not obvious, this behavior is also based on introjection and the uncritical adoption of external experience. How so? Many years ago, the residents of the city frequently protested for a better supply of drinking water. For the city, these protests marked an historical turning point, as they seared the urgency of the issue into the government's collective consciousness. Improving the drinking water supply became the #1 priority, and wastewater management had to wait. While none of the current government officials were present during the protests, that prior experience has been carried forward as a subconscious part of the local government's institutional memory. In the meantime, the population has tripled, and the district's water resources are massively at risk from contamination, indicating that wastewater treatment and clean drinking water can no longer be separate policies. Yet to date, every plan to deal with this risk has failed to come to fruition. This instance of introjection, the collective mental map drawn from past experience that influences present behavior, is the core impediment to Nima's work. Changes in the behavior of people and organizations require the conscious realization of how adapting to new environmental challenges is prevented by introjects. This is why change can only happen where these obstacles are recognized and duly assimilated, and where solutions are not forced on people but worked out collectively.